The silence that fell over the restaurant table was deafening. Olivia Campbell's smirk vanished as she watched her father's face transform from casual happiness to shock, then unmistakable recognition. Her date, the single father she'd spent the last hour subtly ridiculing, stood frozen, coffee cup halfway to his lips. "Daniel," her father whispered. "Daniel Reeves?" Daniel's eyes widened. "Richard? My God." In that moment, as her father embraced the man she'd just dismissed as not her type, Olivia realized she'd made a terrible mistake. A mistake that would change her life forever. If you've ever judged someone too quickly or been judged unfairly yourself, hit that like button and subscribe to hear more stories about life's unexpected lessons and the power of second chances. Olivia Campbell had never imagined herself sitting across from a man who carried a Superman wallet with crayon marks. But here she was, on a blind date arranged by her well-meaning friend Mia, trying not to grimace as Daniel Reeves showed her yet another photo of his 7-year-old daughter. "This is Emma at her first ballet recital," he said, his face lighting up with pride. She was so nervous backstage, but once she got out there. "That's nice," Olivia interrupted, glancing at her watch. 45 minutes in, and all he'd talked about was his daughter. She'd learned more about this child's favorite dinosaurs and bedtime routines than she had about the man sitting across from her. At 32, Olivia had built an impressive career as a marketing executive. Her life was organized, ambitious, and, in her opinion, sophisticated. Her apartment overlooked the city skyline, her closet was filled with designer clothes, and her social media showcased a life of gallery openings and rooftop cocktails. A single father with a modest teaching job and superhero bandages in his pocket wasn't exactly what she'd envisioned for herself. "So, do you always take first dates to diners?" she asked, running a finger along the slightly sticky laminated menu. Daniel's smile faltered slightly. "I know it's not fancy, but they make the best milkshakes in town. Emma and I come here on special occasions." "How charming," Olivia said, not bothering to hide the condescension in her voice. "Does everything in your life revolve around your daughter?" The hurt in his eyes was immediate, but Daniel maintained his composure. "Not everything, but she's the most important part of it. Being a single parent means making certain adjustments." "I can imagine," Olivia replied, though her tone suggested she couldn't, or wouldn't, try. "Must be difficult to maintain any sort of adult life." Daniel straightened in his seat. "It has its challenges, but it's rewarding in ways I never expected. Emma made me a better person." "That's sweet," Olivia said, checking her notifications. "Though I've always believed in getting your own life in order before taking on responsibility for someone else's." The flash of pain across Daniel's face made it clear her barb had landed. She felt a twinge of guilt but pushed it aside. This date was clearly a mismatch, and she was merely being honest. After all, she'd worked too hard building her perfect life to compromise for a package deal. "I should probably mention," Daniel said quietly, "Emma's mother left when she was 6 months old. It wasn't exactly in my life plan to be a single father at 26. Olivia felt another prick of conscience but doubled down. "I'm sorry to hear that, but surely you must have had some indication your relationship wasn't stable before having a child?" Daniel took a deep breath. "Life doesn't always go as planned, Olivia. Sometimes the strongest people are those who recalibrate and find joy in the unexpected. I prefer to make smart choices that don't require recalibration," she replied coolly. An uncomfortable silence settled between them as their entrees arrived. Olivia picked at her salad, occasionally making small talk about neutral topics like the weather and the newest restaurants downtown. Daniel answered politely, but his earlier enthusiasm had dimmed considerably. As they finished their meal, Daniel excused himself to take a quick call from his babysitter. Alone at the table, Olivia texted Mia, "This is a disaster. He's sweet but completely consumed by dad life. Zero chemistry, zero potential. How do I end this gracefully?" Mia's response came quickly, "Give him a chance. Being devoted to his kid is a green flag, not a red one. Olivia rolled her eyes and put her phone away as Daniel returned. Everything okay? She asked mechanically. All good. Emma just wanted to make sure I remembered to check under her bed for monsters when I get home. Despite herself, Olivia smiled. Is that part of the regular routine? Every night, Daniel nodded. Along with 2 stories, no more, no less, and her special song. You sing to her? Terribly, he admitted with a self-deprecating laugh. But she doesn't seem to mind. For a moment, Olivia glimpsed something genuine in his devotion, but she quickly shook it off. This wasn't for her, no matter how nice he seemed. They were finishing their coffee when Olivia spotted a familiar figure entering the diner. Her father, Richard Campbell, was a respected surgeon in the city and the last person she expected to see in this modest establishment. Dad, she called out, surprised but grateful for the interruption. Richard turned, his face brightening at the sight of his daughter. Olivia. What a coincidence. He approached their table, but as his gaze shifted to her companion, his expression transformed. The silence that fell over the table was deafening. Olivia's smirk vanished as she watched her father's face transform from casual happiness to shock, then unmistakable recognition. Her date, the single father she'd spent the last hour subtly ridiculing, stood frozen, coffee cup halfway to his lips. Daniel, her father whispered. Daniel Reeves? Daniel's eyes widened. Richard? My God! Before Olivia could process what was happening, her father had pulled Daniel into a tight embrace, both men seemingly overcome with emotion. I can't believe it's you, her father said, pulling back to look at Daniel. It's been, 7 years? Almost 8 now, Daniel replied, his voice thick. Olivia stared in confusion. You two know each other? Her father turned to her, his expression uncharacteristically intense. Olivia, this man saved my life. The world seemed to tilt beneath Olivia's feet. What are you talking about? Richard pulled up a chair, his eyes never leaving Daniel. Remember when I had that cardiac event at the hospital fundraiser years ago? When you were still in graduate school? Olivia nodded slowly. She remembered the frantic call from her mother, the terrifying flight home, the days of uncertainty. Daniel was there, her father continued. He performed CPR for nearly 15 minutes until the paramedics arrived. The doctors said those minutes were the difference between life and death. Daniel looked down, uncomfortable with the praise. Anyone would have done the same. But they didn't, Richard insisted. You did. And you visited me in the hospital afterward. You brought drawings from your daughter. Emma, Daniel nodded. She was just a baby then. Olivia felt as though she'd been doused in cold water. I remember those drawings. They were taped to your hospital room wall. She turned to Daniel, seeing him through entirely new eyes. That was you? Daniel nodded. Your father talked about you constantly in the hospital. How proud he was of you. He showed me pictures. Richard squeezed Daniel's shoulder. After I recovered, we lost touch when you moved away. Where did you go? My mother got sick, Daniel explained. I moved back to my hometown to take care of her and Emma. I only returned to the city last year after she passed. I'm so sorry, Richard said sincerely. How is Emma? She's wonderful. 7 now and full of personality. Richard beamed. I'd love to see her again. He turned to Olivia, his expression expectant. How do you two know each other? The shame that washed over Olivia was overwhelming. It's a blind date, she managed to say. A friend set us up. What a remarkable coincidence, her father marveled, oblivious to his daughter's discomfort. Olivia couldn't meet Daniel's eyes, remembering every dismissive comment she'd made about his life as a father. Every judgment she'd passed without knowing anything about him or his story. "Dad," she said suddenly. "Would you give us a minute?" Richard looked between them, sensing the tension for the first time. "Of course. Daniel, we need to catch up properly. Will you give me your number before you leave?" After they exchanged information and her father stepped away to order coffee at the counter, Olivia finally found the courage to look at Daniel. "I don't know what to say," she began. "You don't have to say anything," Daniel replied quietly. "Yes, I do." Olivia took a deep breath. "I've been horrible to you all evening. I made assumptions about your life, your choices, your worth, all based on nothing but my own prejudices." Daniel regarded her thoughtfully. "You wouldn't be the first. Single dads aren't exactly prime dating material in most people's books. That's no excuse for how I behaved." The weight of her shame was crushing. "You saved my father's life, and I treated you like you were somehow beneath me because you're devoted to your daughter." For the first time that evening, Olivia truly looked at Daniel, not as a disappointing date or a single father with a messy life, but as a human being with depth and complexity she hadn't bothered to explore. "Would it help if we started over?" Daniel asked, surprising her with his generosity. Olivia shook her head. "I don't deserve that kindness." "Everyone deserves a second chance," Daniel said simply. "That's something having Emma taught me. We all make mistakes. It's what we do afterward that matters." Tears pricked at Olivia's eyes. "I judged you for the very thing that makes you exceptional." Daniel smiled slightly. "Being a dad? Being someone who puts others first. Who steps up when it matters." As her father returned to the table, the three of them fell into conversation. Richard regaled Olivia with stories of how Daniel had visited him daily during his recovery, bringing not only Emma's drawings but books, homemade food, and unwavering optimism. Daniel had even organized a blood drive among his friends when the hospital faced shortages. With each revelation, Olivia's initial impression of Daniel crumbled further. The man she had dismissed as merely a burdened single father was, in reality, someone of remarkable character and compassion. As the evening drew to a close, Richard insisted they all meet again soon, including Emma. Daniel agreed warmly, though Olivia noticed he carefully avoided making eye contact with her as they said their goodbyes. Later that night, alone in her perfectly curated apartment, Olivia couldn't sleep. The contrast between her behavior and Daniel's character tormented her. She had built her life around appearances and achievements, measuring success in promotions and possessions. Yet in one evening, she had been humbled by a man whose measure of success was the well-being of others. After hours of tossing and turning, she reached for her phone and typed a message she never thought she'd send: "I'm sorry for how I behaved tonight. You deserved better. If you're willing, I'd like to truly start over and get to know you, the real you, not the person I assumed you were." She hit send before she could second-guess herself, then set her phone aside, not expecting a response until morning, if at all. To her surprise, a reply came almost immediately: "Thank you for your message. That means a lot. Fresh starts are my specialty. How about coffee next week? A real conversation this time." Olivia smiled through tears she didn't realize she was shedding. "I'd like that very much," she wrote back. What Olivia didn't know as she finally drifted off to sleep was that this night, this humbling, transformative night, was just the beginning of a journey that would challenge everything she thought she knew about success, family, and love. The coffee shop Daniel suggested for their second meeting couldn't have been more different from the diner. It was a small, cozy place with mismatched furniture and local art adorning the walls. Olivia arrived 15 minutes early, nervousness driving her to unusual punctuality. When Daniel walked in, she was struck by how differently she saw him now. His worn messenger bag, which she'd previously noted with disdain, now seemed to tell a story of practicality and priorities. The casual warmth with which he greeted the barista by name spoke to his genuine interest in people. "You came," he said, seeming slightly surprised as he sat across from her. "Did you think I wouldn't?" Daniel shrugged. I wouldn't have blamed you if you hadn't. Second chances are complicated. I'm the one who needs the second chance, Olivia said quietly. Not you. Their conversation that day flowed with an ease that surprised them both. Without her prejudgments clouding her perception, Olivia discovered that Daniel was not only kind but wickedly funny, passionately intelligent, and deeply thoughtful. He taught literature at a local high school, approaching classic texts with a modern sensibility that made his students actually want to read Shakespeare and Austen. How did you end up teaching? She asked, genuinely curious now. I always loved books, he explained. After Emma's mom left, I had to reconsider my plan to pursue a PhD. Teaching high school meant more stable hours for a single parent. Turns out, helping teenagers discover their own voices through literature is more rewarding than publishing academic papers nobody reads. The way he spoke about his work, with passion rather than resignation, made Olivia question her own definition of success. She'd always viewed compromise as failure, but Daniel had found fulfillment precisely because he'd adapted his dreams to his circumstances. As their coffee stretched into lunch, Olivia found herself opening up about her own life in ways she rarely did on dates. She told him about the pressure she'd always felt to achieve, how her father's near-death experience had intensified her drive to make every moment count. That's why I'm always so focused on moving forward, she admitted. After nearly losing Dad, I became obsessed with not wasting time. I think that's why I was so dismissive when we met. I saw your life as complicated. And complications felt like detours from what matters. Daniel considered this thoughtfully. Detours sometimes lead to the most beautiful views, he said. The life I have now isn't the one I planned, but I wouldn't trade it for anything. Before they parted ways, Daniel hesitated. Emma's school has a father-daughter dance next Friday. Your dad mentioned he'd like to see her again. Would you want to come? As friends, he added quickly. The old Olivia would have seen this invitation as exactly the kind of complication she avoided. The new Olivia, still emerging from her shell of judgment, found herself nodding. I'd love to meet Emma properly. The week that followed shifted something fundamental in Olivia. She found herself thinking about Daniel and Emma constantly, wondering about their daily routines, the challenges they faced, the joys they shared. She texted Daniel occasionally, simple messages about her day or questions about his. Each exchange revealed another layer of the man she had so quickly dismissed. When Friday arrived, Olivia took unusual care with her appearance, not to impress, but to be appropriate for a children's event. She chose a simple sundress instead of her usual sleek attire, applied minimal makeup, and even added a small flower pin she thought Emma might like. Daniel's apartment building was in a modest but well-kept neighborhood, worlds away from her downtown high-rise. When he opened the door with Emma partially hiding behind his legs, Olivia felt an unexpected flutter of nervousness. Emma, Daniel said gently, this is my friend Olivia. Her daddy is the doctor you made drawings for a long time ago. Emma peered up with curious eyes. The one who had an OE heart? Olivia knelt down to Emma's level. That's right. Your drawings helped him feel better. Emma studied her carefully before declaring, your hair is pretty. Just like that, the ice was broken. As they drove to the school, Emma chattered from the back seat about her dress, which twirled perfectly, her friends, particularly one named Zoe who could do a cartwheel, and her cat Pancake, who was not allowed to attend the dance, much to her disappointment. The elementary school gym had been transformed with streamers and twinkling lights. Fathers and daughters of all ages filled the space, some dancing with abandon, others hovering shyly near the refreshments. Richard met them there, his face lighting up at the sight of Emma. To Olivia's surprise, Emma immediately remembered him, rushing forward with an enthusiastic, Dr. Campbell. My drawings worked. You're all better. As her father swept Emma into a dance, Olivia found herself alone with Daniel at the edge of the dance floor.